Huge thanks to Gumout for sponsoring this portion of this video. Gumout Regain maximizes your vehicle's fuel economy while improving horsepower. And Gumout Regain actually cleans the entire fuel system, including fuel injectors, intake valves, and ports, as well as the combustion chamber, including piston tops and cylinder heads to keep your car running smooth. And Gumout maintains vehicles to run better and last longer. Use Gumout Regain every 3,000 miles and get the most out of your vehicle. And once again, thanks to Gumout for sponsoring that part of my video. Now back to my regular content. What is more stressful than flying 150,000 miles in 1 year for work? Having a bunch of project cars waiting for you back at home. That's what's stressful. It's been a while since I've talked about my projects and it hasn't been fair to you guys. So let's go ahead and go through every single one of my project cars in detail and get you up to speed of everything going on. And there's a lot. So I hope you enjoy this video as we go through the tour. After supercharging this car, I drove it all the way back from Richmond, Virginia to Atlanta, and I got on the gas a few days later and got a check engine light and was wondering what was happening. But what's funny is that technically the problem was my fault. So this car overall has treated me the best in probably my entire career. It's fast, it's comfortable, has heated and cooled seats, has Apple CarPlay, and that's why I'm able to daily drive a 750 horsepower car. It's just awesome. But there are a few things I've run into that are super weird, but thankfully, with the help of National Speed, I was able to figure it out. So here's the 750 horsepower setup on Sub-Zero. We got the VMP Odin right here, absolute beast of a supercharger. You have this grill right here, this fancy Cervini's grill, which looks really nice, but the factory grill actually has these shutters in it that control airflow. Well, you gotta remove that in order to put this guy in. So if you look right here, air is going straight into here, right? You can't really see it that well, but there's another nozzle right here that feeds into that part of the grill. So what's happening is air is going through here, funneling through here, and then causing turbulent air in this area, therefore confusing this MAF sensor and everything else going on. So in a weird turn of events, I was getting too much airflow to this engine, which is really weird, but it makes sense. With all that turbulent air happening that it's not used to, it was starting to dump fuel and change the air-fuel ratio. Therefore, I had no gas mileage either. Everything just went down the drain when it came to that. Also, somebody was kind enough to hit my door extremely hard and just, you know, drive away, because that's typically what you do. Seems like a nice guy. We also have a big chip in my front lip from something. But you know, it builds character, so who cares, right? But overall, couldn't be happier with the National Speed VMP package. It's been an amazing daily driver, and once we sorted that out, I haven't seemed to have any other issues with this. I'm still data logging for them to just make sure, but no check engine lights, nothing weird so far, just because of putting a block-off plate in this little nozzle, and that's all it took. So this car you haven't seen in about a year? Holy crap, I can't believe that already. That just shows how project cars just kind of get carried away when you don't have time to do them. Currently, the car still has an open downpipe exhaust. Once the exhaust is done, the #1 thing is actually to get an alignment, because it's practically undrivable and can't drive straight. But as you can see, the interior is still literally mint. Also, while tuning it on the dyno, the car's power band was very much unlike a turbo Honda, more like a Craftsworks supercharged setup. Come to find out, with David Luck, I had a defective brand new single turbo that leaks down the middle of each housing. So the leak is in between here and there. So it's in there. So it wasn't making all the power it could be, but 470 wheel in an EG is still a ton of horsepower. I also installed Fortune Auto coilovers and full race traction bars to help with torque steer. I love that sound. Closed caption that, YouTube. Also, something seemed to live in my caliper, so that's pretty neat. I was also getting a crazy leak from somewhere. I couldn't really figure out where it was. Come to find out, it was near the thermostat and some other areas of the motor that just tended to have oil leaks. Thankfully, patched that all up, but that was another issue I ran into. So the car is making progress, but it's tough and fighting every step of the way. I was gonna paint this already, but I also have a front lip, a carbon ducktail on the back, some really nice aesthetic goodies, but it's just not ready yet because it's not painted yet. I'm one of those people that has to do things in like a very specific order. It's like, no, it needs to be painted before you put nice carbon pieces on your car. That way, it doesn't look out of place. Okay, well, this was a car at one point. All right, so this is a big one. BLUEJZ has arguably been the biggest struggle of my entire career. When it comes to filming cars, building cars, does not matter. This has been me trying to climb to the top of Mount Everest and getting turned down every single time I get close. It's like I just run out of oxygen right at the peak. Yeah, it's a little different than the last time you saw it. At the end of the day, with all of these problems, it all comes down to one thing. The car needs a completely new body harness or chassis harness, whatever you want to call it. And that is why this car is so meticulously torn down right now and looks like a catastrophe. Because it is. Oh, look at that. I got a brand new turbo blanket though, so we're getting somewhere. All in all, this car has cost me, wait for it, 3 engines. So that's 1 stock 2J and 2 built ones, has bricked 3 AEM Infinity ECUs, burned up to 12 coil packs out of existence, clogged injectors, who knows how many spark plugs, a differential, 2 axles, defective built twin turbos, 2 wiring harnesses, 2 clutches, 2 fuel pumps, and a popped Michelin tire. I've also retuned the car several times and even put bigger injectors in it for more headroom. But the car was only pushing around 6 volts at times, which explains everything, including all these catastrophic failures. Without enough power, things just aren't going to work properly. So I'm switching over to a different standalone ECU and a different gauge cluster. That way I can get rid of all this analog crap that seems to really hold me back. Oh, check this out, guys. Look at all these spider webs that are hanging out in here. But as you can see here, the fender is off in order to access the areas that have the body harness. And this one is the biggest culprit of all, because if you have your car sitting just a smidge too low, this tire can rub into this body harness and wear it down into pieces. And I suspect that was a big part of it, but also lesson learned. When I bought this car, it was a piece of junk. Was it cool for the video series to have kind of a full transformation to make this thing look prettier than it really deserved? Of course it was. But if I just paid a little bit more for a better example to start with on this project, I probably wouldn't be in this situation. This was practically a barn find. And had I just picked something that was taken more care of, the body harness probably would just be in better shape. I'm not saying it would be a lot better, because it's still a 30-year-old body harness, but probably better than the situation that this car has given me. This car in particular has become the car of somebody asking, so what's going on with the 240? And I say, how much time do you got? The priority right now is for me to finish another 240SX that, yes, I still own. That's all you get. This car is still pretty much a secret, but I couldn't resist. This switch panel is pretty cool though. I personally think the hardest pill to swallow with me doing project cars is honestly that I drive so many project cars that work. I've driven over 1,400 project cars at this point for this YouTube channel to bring you guys content, to show people's perspective on their part of car culture, to share their story. With my video series, you might notice that I always get to a certain point where I'm like this close to finishing it, and then something catastrophic happens. With this, it was the motors blowing up and the ECU issues and stuff. With this, it was kind of the turbo stuff and some of the leaking and things of that nature. I always try to do it the right way, and sometimes you just kind of get lost and you make things almost too nice and you make your project more complicated. And that's kind of where I fall under. I just can't seem to have a car that's just ugly and runs good. That's probably where I did wrong. Here we are in the unfinished basement. You guys haven't seen this in a long time, where I did the majority of the aesthetic work to the Integra in here and some other stuff. But here's the Acura Integra with the K20 swap in it. Now this car is a little bit weird of a case because it's not so much mechanical issues than registration issues. So this is a 2001 Acura Integra, which sounds lovely. It's the last year of the Integra. Until you realize that it's a 25-year exemption for emissions here in Georgia. And I did not think I was going to swap this car when I bought it with the original B18. Now with the original B18, it decided to just go kaboom. A bone stock B18. Don't ask me how. I guess I just have that kind of luck. Physically, it would pass with flying colors. The issue is the Hondata ECU. The Hondata ECU can't be read by an OBD, and here in Georgia, it's an OBD test. They plug it in. Therefore, the Hondata ECU freaks out and doesn't know what to do. It has full catalytic converters, resonators, it has a near stock factory exhaust system all the way to the catback. But the K20 runs really great, but somehow I managed to get a cracked radiator because a rock hit it just the right way. So this leaks, unfortunately. Whenever I get on it, it spews coolant everywhere, so that's cool. Get it? Coolant and cool. I'm sorry. The Redeye swap Magnum is honestly the worst financial decision I've ever made, and I absolutely hate to say it. To be fully transparent, this project nearly cost me my entire career. It's still sitting at off-the-line performance in Des Moines, Iowa, waiting to get a new clutch after my brand new one decided not to work at the most important moment, the one race I needed it to work in elimination rounds. You know, after winning every other race in practice, I need to put it on a standalone ECU, rewire the lighting system because apparently the taillights don't work anymore, and actually get to drive it for once. I really didn't get to experience it, and it's just a real shame. But it really showed how many great people in my life helped out to make it through this project. It was an absolute nightmare, and to be honest with you, I'm glad that the majority of it is over. This car got freshly painted and then immediately decided to turn into a paperweight. On the way home from its first drive, it decided to stop charging and I pushed it into my garage. This car mechanically though has treated me very well. It has 113,000 miles on it with a bone stock and sealed engine with 710 wheel horsepower on 93 octane. I did have to change some rear end gears in it once due to launching it like crazy, but let's be honest, that's my fault. Years ago, I did have a weird taillight issue that required a ton of work to fix. Turns out it was my fuse box that I replaced 3 times. So I got 2 dud fuse boxes. How does this even happen? But then this time around, I got a check engine light for voltage issues. So I said, oh man, this isn't good. First things first, I decided to replace the alternator with a 250 amp beast. Well, after that, I drove it for a little while, and then the car stopped working and stopped charging. There was some chassis harness damage back in the day which had to be repaired from a rodent or something. So I just assumed that this was the issue and didn't have much motivation to go through an entire chassis harness, as you can imagine. But then my buddy Alan said, dude, you have to miss SMURRF. That's like part of who you are. So he came over and he said, how about we do a voltage test and just start from the alternator? So I went to 6 different auto parts stores just to find the right battery I needed for my car. Somehow that was a thing. The brand new alternator that I paid for just simply wasn't working. So we headed to a random store and asked if they had any alternators in stock. Obviously, most didn't because of David luck, but we finally had a winner. By buying this alternator, we went in thinking it's probably just a means to an end to find the real problem. And then we fixed it. We are finally back in my pride and joy SMURRF, the car that has been with me since 2012. But when this car was near bone stock, it was practically invincible. I beat the absolute snot out of it. Then I put a Pro Charger on it, made 630 wheel. Then after that, put the VMP Gen 3 on it and made 710 wheel. Here, there's a stoplight coming up. Oh no, I have the downshift. But right now, I'm in the process of just burning off the rest of that bad gas that's been sitting in this car for about a year. So I'm not really risking any crazy full throttle pulls until 1, I know the charging system is 100%, 2, the readiness test goes through the ECU to let me know that. And 3, once there's better gas in it. You know, there's still like the little big toes I can do. It's so nice having one Coyote that's raw with a manual, and the other Coyote, I just hold on for your dear life as the 10-speed rows through the gears, right? Even though the live axle is technically worse, it still gives a crazy experience sometimes. No better feeling. As you can see, the nitrous blue flake is shimmering as always, looking good in the sunlight. I also need a brand new front lip right here, but that's an easy fix. I have it at home. All I have to do is put it on up, but we had to take that off for the paint job. But there we have it. All of my project cars. I hope you really enjoyed this video. It was actually a lot of work trying to remember and document everything for this video because so much has happened with all these different projects. It was kind of cool doing a deep dive on kind of like a Spark Notes version of my history with these project cars. There's so much more to them. There's so many more horror stories I have. So if you want to hear more of like my bad luck stories, just let me know because it's wild. But along with that, I want to thank each and every one of you for watching this video, stopping by, and I hope all of you have a wonderful day. I upload on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, and I will see you guys next time. But take it easy. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.